Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to create a dynamic MDX and DAX queries using the different tools. So the tools that I'm going to show you how to create the dynamic queries is one is the R programming. In fact, we talked about R programming in our previous video, how to set up the R programming and how to use the Microsoft R client within that, how to use the OLAP R packages and how to connect the cube and all we discussed. In case if you want to go to that video, so please go to the description and go to that particular video how to work with R programming connecting to the queue. So now just extension to that, so we're going to use the R programming, how we can use build the MDX query dynamically, as well as the writing the SQL queries. Even we can build our dynamic MDX query and send a request to multidimensional cube from our SQL database. So let's get into the details of each tool. I mean, just give a heads up. So to create the dynamic MDX query, so these are the not only the tools that can help. There are other tools also there, like using the .NET, you can write your dynamic MDX queries. Some other tools also you can, create the dynamic MDX query. But here, completely, I'm covering what are the tools that I'm using in my current project. So presently, I'm using the R programming, and some places I'm using the SQL Server query to prepare the MDX queries dynamically and fetch the data. So let's get into the details of each tool. So first one, we're going to talk about the R programming. R programming is actually a very friendly application. So it's a programming language like equivalent to the Python. So it's a very easy to write the R language. But yeah, until we get the practice, yes, it's a difficult. But once you learn it, it's very easy to write it, and it's easy to understand and write the queries. So now here, this is the session where I connected in R Studio, and here I'm just trying to build the dependencies to fulfill our dynamic MDX queries. So first thing is I'm going to load the my OLAP R library. That is the one is allow you to connect from R programming to your multidimensional cube. And after that, we need to build our connection strings and create a connection to the cube. So by using these two variables and using the OLAP connection, we're going to make the connection to the multidimensional cube that I already just executed and connected. Now see here, there is a query that I created here where we are trying to fetch the reseller sales amount and then month level information and category level information. But this query is completely static query. So I didn't prepare anything like a dynamic way. It's a static query that I'm calling. Now using that query, I just fetch the data from the queue. Now you can see here, this is all the data that I fetched from the queue, where it's populated the month and category and the reseller sales amount. You see the calendar year, semester, and quarter, even though I didn't select that because of the MDX hierarchies, right? So the column that I called in here is the from the hierarchy, calendar hierarchy. That's the reason. The remaining columns already automatically populated along with month because these are the parent members from the hierarchy for the month. So now moving on. Now I want to convert this query to the dynamic. What my requirement is, I want to fetch past the year and the past the month, then fetch the data for the respective year and respective month. So I choose the 2012 and December month data. I want to pass it as a variable. So for that, what I do is, so first I will store those two values into two variables. One is the calendar year, other one is the calendar month. Now I'm going to use the paste zero function. So that will allow you to concatenate. It's equivalent to the concatenate in your SQL. So it will allow you to concatenate any query. So it will be comma separated. So whatever we write in this paste function, it will be comma separated. The first query is completed till here, the static one. And here I'm trying to pass my calendar year variable and then again concatenated and then concatenated with the calendar month and remaining statement I prepared. So now this one is the my new MDX query. So now if you want to see that MDX query, it will be passing on the right side. You can see with slash n like a new line and all. So, but when you pass this MDX query to your, execute 2D function, then it's automatically translated. Don't worry about it. So now what I do, so the MDX query is prepared, the dynamic MDX query. So here CYCM can be dynamic. You can pass it from the batch file or you can pass it from any other front end tool. Then from there, it will take it and pass it to your MDX query. So once those values are passed there, the query will be prepared by using the paste function. Once the query is ready, then you can come here and execute it. So now the data is extracted from the queue. Now let's see what results we see in the view function. Now you can see here, it only fetches the data for 2012 December data. Uh, so similarly, you can, I mean, in this scenario, I just given one example, but you can extend these variables to different parameters. Like you can do the filtration, parameterization at category level, geography level. How many parameters you want to add it, you can go ahead and add it to your variables, and then you can call those variables to your MDX query and make your MDX query dynamic. That's how you pass the variables. Now coming to the list of attributes, right? So sometimes some users might require certain attributes, and some users might not require certain attributes, right? Even those scenarios also you can make it your query more dynamic way. So here is the example. What I did here, I just capture list of attributes that are available in the cube, right, in the proper notation, in this notation. So I pasted here. So here I'm looking for the two attributes. One is the category, other one is the customer geography country. Now I pass those two values, two attributes, to one of the variable. I passed it, and now again I'm preparing my another MDX query by using the paste function with my list of attributes. Now here, this time it will take the variables from calendar year, calendar month, and get the list of attributes from the list attributes variable and prepare our MDX query. Now if I execute this statement, so my data will get fetched here. So you can see here, voila. So you can see here, customer geography information also start populated. Of course, there is a duplication. It's repeated for each country because there is no relationship between the reseller amount and customer geography. That's the reason you see the duplicated values, but don't worry about it. So this is how you can make your MDX query more robust way by using the R programming. Once you get the data, so again you can do your regular analysis that I'll quickly show here. I just rename the columns of the data frame and then also convert my reseller sales amount to numeric, and you can build your plot. So the plot diagram is built. By using this, you can do your analysis, and you also can create the line charts. So this is how you can use R programming to build your dynamic MDX. Um, moving on, so the next one we're going to talk about preparing the dynamic MDX and DAX using the SQL. So to use the MS SQL and write the dynamic MDX and DAX, you need to create the linked server object. So the linked server objects will allow you to, enable the gateway connection between your SQL database as well as your OLAP engine. So here I created the two linked servers. One is for MOLAP cube, other one is for the tabular cube, right? So let's go to the properties. It's a straightforward and simple that you can create it. Let me show you how you can create the linked server for demo purpose. So then now I right click on the linked server, click on new linked server. It will open the one window. You can give a linked server name test, and here you need to choose from other data source. You need to choose Microsoft OLEDB provider for analysis service 14.0, and then here the product name you need to provide MS OLAP, that's your product name. Data source is your localhost, or you can provide your server name, and catalog will be your cube name. So in our scenario, AWDW is our solution name that you can see here. This is our cube name, AWDW. That is the one I given. Next, you go on to the security. From the security, you can keep this option, second option, be made without using the security context. But in case if you want to use any specific account to connect to cube and password, you can update here. But my scenario, I'm using the second option, be made without using a security context. And after that, you need to do some server options settings. Here, make sure your RPC is true and RPC out is true. So make sure these four options are true, then click OK. That's it. So now your linked server object is created for cube, and you can see list of all your cubes. But however, when you write a SQL query, it only works for AWDW because that is the catalog you mentioned in the connection right here. So whatever the cubes are available in this catalog, the solution, let's say you have a 2-3 cubes, you can able to write the MDX query dynamically, and you can fetch the data from any cube within the AWDW. If you have another cube solution stating that AdventureWorks DW, it won't work because in your catalog you mentioned AWDW. That's the reason you only it will allow you to connect to this AWDW and fetch the data. So that's the key point. Please remember. Now moving on. So how to write the queries now, right? So already prepared some queries, some sample queries wrote here. Let me go to open the new query connecting to the POC, that is my SQL database, and here I'll paste my queries. Now let me go to the first. We'll cover the MOLAP connection, multidimensional cube connection, and after that we'll go to the tabular. So the first query what I did here, here I use the open query method. So open query method will allow you to connect to the any linked server and fetch the data. So not only the cube. So if you want to connect to the Oracle database and fetch the data, open query will help you to pull the data from different sources. So anything you need to start, you need to use the open query to fetch the data from different cross sources apart from the SQL database. Of course, you can map your SQL databases also. That's not a problem. But most of the time, we use the linked server to connect to the Oracle database or OLAP queue to fetch the data. So in my scenario, so I use the Open Query to pull the data from the multidimensional cube. So the syntax will be select star from Open Query, and then your linked server object name that you need to give whatever we created. So the MOLAP AWDW is created in the linked server objects. That is the name I given. And after that, in single quote, you need to provide your MDX query. So this is the MDX query. I'm trying to fetch the data. So now let's execute that. So that's your MDX data fetching from the queue. So now how you can make query dynamic, right? So that's where the dynamic nature comes, right? Because we cannot write the dynamic queries in MDX window. Of course, we can write it, but it's a very complex way to write the dynamic queries in MDX window. That's the reason these two tools we are covering are programming and the linked server. Using the linked server, we use the SQL query to prepare the MDX query dynamically. So now in the second statement, what I did, so I'm trying to fetch the data for 2012 and December data. Now this query also works like charm, so where you get the data for only 2012 and December. Now here where I'm making the dynamic of the previous query. So here I'm passing the two values, the year value and month value, to the two variables, which is the CY, CM, and I prepared my SQL query dynamically. Within that query, what I'm doing, so first you can see here, I'm just concatenating my SQL statement with my variables, and it's prepared the statement. You can see here the bottom. Now if I simply change this from print to exec and run the command, so let me execute, then I'll get the results for December. And what happened, incorrect syntax in here, SQL query. Oh, sorry, there is a bracket is missing here. Sorry for that. So there you go. So you got the data for December month, 2012. Now same thing, you can even pass your columns, list of the columns that you're looking for the cube. You can pass them as a variable by stating that another variable called list of attributes. And again, I'm concatenating the my SQL open query with three variables: calendar month, calendar year, and a list of attributes. Again, I'm just printing the query, and then so I'll just copy the statement and paste it here and execute the statement. Now this time I'll get the data for category and geography level. You can see here. So that's how you can make the dynamic by using these variables. In fact, this is a normal method. I use the declare and all, but you can put these statements into stored procedure, and the stored procedure you can use it like a globally, where you can pass the parameters based on the customer dependency. So you can store all your values and all the list of attributes to one table and make them available for the user and let them select and pass them from the front end any application and fetch the data from the queue. So this is how you can make it dynamic. And then I think this is the same statement that I copied and pasted. Now coming to the tabular cube. So tabular cube also, it's a pretty straightforward. The same, but we need to build the separate connection for tabular cube because instance will change, right? So here I need to give my data source, under the data source, I need to give my tabular instance name and the catalog name, but the provider and product name will be the same. Only the change will be data source and catalog, and rest of the security and options, everything will be the same, no change. Now coming to here, the first query, what I'm doing, I'm just executing the simple customer dimension table by using the open query method. So you can see here the data, and even the second query, I just use the select columns function statement along with evaluate, where I fetched only the customer ID details. So that means you can customize your query, DAX query, and fetch the data. And the last query here, I just made it dynamic. So here I'm trying to pass my variable where my what I'm trying to get it here. So class M, and yeah, where my reorder point equals to 600, I want to fetch the all class M products and from the product dimension table. Now let me execute this statement. So you can see here I got all the product columns where my reorder point is 600. In this scenario, I just made it my dimension as a parameter, so that I'm getting from the product dimension. So this is how you can make it your MDX query and DAX query in more robust way, dynamic way, and fetch the data from the multidimensional cube as well as your tabular cube. So that's about this video, and I'll see you in the next video with a different topic. Thank you.